So, Call of Duty Warzone might just be the best Battle Royale ever. And since its release, there's actually a lot of numbers to support that. You know what, guys? This might be the Fortnite killer. Now, you may have noticed that I'm not in that stool in the office, and that's because, like many others, we're taking all precautions necessary to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. And that means, for the next little while, you're gonna get some sweet Don't At Me's from our various homes. Make sure you keep washing your hands. Alright, so let's get into Warzone. And I know what you're thinking. Another Battle Royale baked into an FPS title? What makes it better than all the other attempts at this? Well, I'm here to tell you that all the signs are pointing to this game being different. So different, in fact, that Warzone is shattering records from its predecessors. 3 days after the game's release, it reached 15 million players worldwide. That's 5 million more than Apex in the same time frame, and it took Fortnite 6 months to reach 20 million players. These numbers alone make Warzone the fastest growing non-mobile game of all time. Now, Call of Duty tried this before, as I'm sure a lot of you remember, with Blackout in Black Ops 4. And it had a reasonable start, a lot of people were playing it on Twitch, but it certainly didn't catch on the way Warzone has. Remember guys, you actually had to buy Black Ops 4 to play Blackout. This is the first free-to-play Call of Duty Battle Royale. Now, before I get into the details of what's made this game work, let's go over what actually Warzone offers. As you might imagine, it works similar to other Battle Royales. You have 150 player maximum lobbies, there's a circle closing in, except instead of the storm like Fortnite, it's gas this time. Everybody starts with just a pistol, and you work in 3-player teams. Honestly, on its surface, it's actually very similar to Apex, but it feels like the size and scope of this game is just way bigger than we've seen with other Battle Royales, which is exactly what Doc said.
It's actually a very interesting space to fight in, because if you'll notice, the world scale, the scale actually feels pretty good. Like it feels like I'm running around in a bigger space. And you could tell when you're in a certain area. That's one thing that stuck out to me in the playtest, is that that you're at the airport. I mean, it's not like buildings right into an airport, right into the stadium, into a mountain behind it. Everything's spaced out nicely.
Look, there's no understating the popularity of Battle Royales, all the way back to H1Z1, and then PUBG, and then Fortnite, and now Warzone. These games are like a streamer's dream. The game is actually fairly casual. It doesn't feel like competitive matchmaking in CSGO, but it's those exact same things that made these games fun that have had hardcore FPS fans turn their nose up at them. Even back at the office, the CSGO heads and Rainbow Six Siege heads, they scoff at games like Fortnite because they're just simply not competitive enough. And that's where Warzone comes in. What sets this game apart is its ability to balance that casual and competitive side of things on a razor's edge. It has all the best aspects of previous BRs, but with some much needed skill testing additions. The first is that it's simply a refined Call of Duty game. This game is just CoD, and there is already a fully built out competitive esports scene around that. The second, and maybe most importantly, is the buyback system. When you die in Warzone, you get sent to the gulag, and you get the opportunity to 1v1 someone to get back in the game. This means that if you're the best team in the lobby, and you have an unfortunate early game, or you get unlucky with loot, you have a chance to come back and then win the game later. Lastly, the addition of a simple financial system that allows you to make sure when you go to the late game, you have the loadout you need, the armor you need, and all the utility you need to succeed. If any of you have played Fortnite, you know that feeling of heading into the late game with no shield and just knowing that you're dead.
Like imagine you collect enough currency, and then with that currency you could buy shields, or you could buy a launch pad, right? For me, that just sounds really cool, and I think Epic might eventually do something like that.
Basically, what all this means is that when you play Warzone, you never feel like you lost in the late game because somebody got luckier than you. And when it comes to Battle Royales, I think that is a huge win, because that's been a lot of people's biggest complaints with the genre for years. And you don't have to just take my word for it. As with every new BR, Twitch's biggest names are all over Warzone.
I got him, baby, I got him, I'm coming back.
Holy fuck!
I think I just saw a scope.
I'm gonna get position. Hold up, Alex. I got position.
Minor.
Teammates probably coming too. You're gonna get me, so you gotta kill him fast. Do you have position or what?
I do.
Did you kill him?
Hold on, man.
They're pushing me. Oh, they're pushing me.
Dude,
I'm dead. There's another guy.
this is ridiculous.
Oh my god.
This is ridiculous. Wait, I'm good. I got position.
Now, as you might imagine, with that 15 million player number, Warzone has been dwarfing the competition since its release. The game has had higher viewership than both Apex and Fortnite over the last week on Twitch. With all this in mind, it might not just be the actual game that has led to this popularity. Much like myself, many people around the world have been isolated to their homes due to the spread of COVID-19. And in places like Italy, where the virus has already caused mass quarantine, we've seen a 70% spike in internet traffic, and that's according to Bloomberg. And in their report, they actually attribute that spike to an increase in playing of video games by young people staying home from school. Now, for all the good things I've said about Warzone, there's always going to be a honeymoon period with new games. Hell, some of the biggest streamers are still being paid to play it. Shroud, while being impressed with the game in general, has already noted a few things that he'd like to change.
I mean, it is really, really fast. It really is. But you can't, that's the thing, you can't balance, it's near impossible to balance TTK and Call of Duty because like their main focus is to try to combine all aspects of the game, multiplayer, Battle Royale, like all these modes are like connected, right?
And Summit, who's been streaming to like 40,000 people at a time since Warzone released, also said that the time to kill was too fast, and he says that the vehicles in the game are just broken.
I'll be honest, that truck and the blue car are OPS. Dude,
Yeah,
I run people over all day. Yeah, it's insane, bro. Wait, you can't shoot through the front window on the fucking truck?
No, can't.
I had no idea that. That's crazy.
So good.
With those gripes in mind, Infinity Ward has actually set up a tracker so that they can keep track of known bugs and let everyone know where these fixes and when these fixes are coming, which is an insane commitment from a developer. Now, obviously, there's still a lot of time before we know whether or not Warzone is going to be the Fortnite killer, or whether they can coexist, or if it's just going to die off like Blackout did. But there's one thing I can tell you for sure. When I log off at the end of the day today, I am definitely getting some games in. Colin, you should actually try this game. You know, like when you start a Battle Royale, you get that feeling where like you don't belong, where you just like land and die every game. Like it's not really like that. Like because it's Call of Duty, there's like familiarity and like, you know, there's lots of mechanics that allow you to keep playing. I think it makes it kind of awesome.